الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This week marks the anniversary of the Shahada, the martyrdom of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam, the 9th Imam of Ahlul Bayt. And next week marks the anniversary of the martyrdom of Imam Muhammad AlBaqer, the 5th Imam of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And that's why, inshallah, tonight, for the few minutes that we have, I will go over the lives of these two great Imams. And I'll try to shed some light on their lives so that we can benefit and understand the lives of the Imams in a better way. I'll begin, inshallah, by speaking about Imam AlBaqer and then Imam al-Jawad. Now, when it comes to Imam AlBaqer, if we want to better understand the role that he served and his importance in the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we have to first understand the circumstances of his time, the time that he lived in, and the major events that were unfolding. And only then we would understand that the time of the life of Imam AlBaqer and the role that he served was truly a turning point for Ahlul Bayt. And the reason behind that is because ever since the Prophet died, the Imams were sidelined. And the only exception to that was Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib for 4 years. But besides that, since the Prophet's death until about maybe 60, 70 years after that, or more, 80, 90 years after that, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt were sidelined. They did not have the opportunity to speak, to teach, to preach. They did not have the platform to spread the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They were always sidelined. This was the policy of the authorities, of the governments, of Bani Umayyah. Sideline Ahlul Bayt. Don't let anyone access Ahlul Bayt. It was difficult to even access them. Why? Because obviously when the people and the masses would go and meet Ahlul Bayt and they would learn their lessons and hear their teachings, they would fall in love with them. So in order to prevent people from loving Ahlul Bayt, what do? You prevent them from seeing Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They did not have ideology to counter the ideology of Ahlul Bayt, to counter the teachings. So they just try to sideline, sanction Ahlul Bayt, prevent the people from reaching Ahlul Bayt. So Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam never really got the chance to spread their teachings. Nobody even knew anything about Ahlul Bayt, especially the people that lived in Sham. People that lived in Sham, they lived under a propaganda machine of Bani Umayyah, that Ahlul Bayt, they're evil, they're bad. And that's why it's narrated that when Imam Ali alayhi salam was struck in the mihrab by Ibn Muljam, when news reached Sham, you know what the people's reaction was? When they heard that Ali ibn Abi Talib was struck in his prayer, their first reaction was, Ali prays? So this is how they were brainwashed. That to them, Ali is someone far from Allah, far from prayer, far from any of these signs of being religious. That's how they had brainwashed him. And likewise, during the life of Imam Hassan, and obviously during the life of Imam Hussein, how they showed Imam Hussein as being a Khariji, someone that's not even Muslim. When Imam Zainul Abidin asked, when he was taken as a prisoner of war, he asked an old man that was just looking at them. He told him, have you read the Quran? He said, yes. But what do you have to do with the Quran? Where have you read the Quran? He said, what do you mean, what do I have to do with the Quran? The Quran was revealed upon my grandfather. Who's your grandfather? Rasulullah. Rasulullah is your grandfather? So they took advantage of the ignorance. The masses don't know who Ahlul Bayt are, because once they know them, they will fall in love with them. And this is a teaching of Imam Rida alayhi salam. فَإِنَّ النَّاسِ لَوْ عَرِفُوا مَحَاسِنَ كَلَامِنَا لَاتَّبَعُونَا. When people hear our beautiful words, they'll start following Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And likewise, that extended to the life of Imam Zainul Abidin. He was not able to teach and preach because the authorities would not allow that. But when Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam became the Imam, things began to change. And the reason behind that isn't because the Umayyads happily, willfully changed their policy. It's because the Umayyads now were struggling as an empire. If you read the history of the Bani Umayyah's empire, when the time of Imam AlBaqer came, their empire was in decline now. It was weakening day after day. They had inner problems. Bani al-Abbas, the Abbasid empire now was rising. And there were wars and battles between these two empires. So obviously, now they're preoccupied with this problem, because this was a fight for survival, to save their empire. So now they didn't have the time, the resources, the energy, or even they were not in the mindset to go after Ahlul Bayt and sanction them. They had bigger problems. And this was the greatest blessing on Ahlul Bayt, because it created a relative freedom for Imam AlBaqer. The Imams always had police, authorities outside their houses, making sure that, you know what, he's not trying to mobilize the people, teach the people, spread the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. All of a sudden, there was this vacuum. No more police, no more authorities. The Imam in Medina now could go to the Masjid of the Prophet, and that's where all the scholars would sit and teach, and he could have his own discussion, his own class. And this is exactly what Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam did. He was the first Imam to start a formal class in Al-Medina. Medina was where the University of Islam was. If you wanted to learn about Quran, about the Prophet, about theology, anything, you would go to Medina. So Imam AlBaqer also started a class there. And he began to spread the teachings of Ahlul Bayt for the first time. Before that, it was all on a personal level. The Imams, personally, they would teach. Now, it was a public class that anyone could attend. And the Imam began to spread the teachings of Rasulullah, Imam Ali, all the other Imams. And the basic teachings of Ahlul Bayt that we have now, most of it, a lot of it, came from Imam AlBaqer, and after that, Imam Sadiq as well. Because after Imam Sadiq, now the Abbasids, they're in power. They once again, just like the Umayyads, they went to sanctioning Ahlul Bayt. They went to confining their freedom, and once again, they deprived them from teaching. So it was only these two Imams. Imam AlBaqer al-Sadiq, Imam al-Kadhim, Harun, once again, he throws him in the prisons. Imam al-Kadhim spends his life from prison after prison. Imam al-Rida, yes, only for about a year and a half when he was the crown prince, he had relative freedom. That's why we have some ahadith from Imam al-Rida. But once again, Imam al-Jawad, under house arrest, Imam al-Jawad is oppressed, has no freedom until Imam al-Mahdi. So truly, the only time that the Imams were able to teach and spread their teachings was during the life of AlBaqer and As-Sadiq. And this is considered the golden age of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. You see, every empire, every country has a golden age where knowledge flourishes, technology flourishes, innovation. For Ahlul Bayt, it was those, I could say, maybe 30, 40 years. From Imam AlBaqer to Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam. And that was because of the political circumstances that they took advantage of. So Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam had a class, and he began to spread his teachings. And for the first time, the people began to see the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. They were never spread. They were never taught. They were never exposed to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And that's where the Imam gets his name from. His name is Muhammad AlBaqer. Muhammad, obviously, we know what that means. What is AlBaqer? AlBaqer in the Arabic language is the one that cuts and dissects. Why was he named AlBaqer? Shimr, Amr ibn Shimr, he was one of the companions of the Imams. he asks another companion by the name of Jabir ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi. Jabir was also a companion, a close companion to Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam. He asked him one day, why was Imam AlBaqer named AlBaqer? Why? So he tells him, Jabir, he tells him, لأنه بقر العلم بقرة, because he dissected knowledge and he delved into it like no one before. He began to disseminate the teachings of Ahlul Bayt in a way that people had never seen. The scholars of Medina, for the first time, they see the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt. The Imams have opinions, the Imam have rulings, the Imam have justifications and arguments. In every scope of religion, in theology, the Imam began to teach. In fiqh, jurisprudence, the Imam began to teach. Tafsir al-Quran, the Imam began to teach. In history, he began to teach. Hadith, the sciences of the hadith, he began to teach. Akhlaq, ethics, he began to teach. Every science in Islam, he would have a class, and there would be so many students that were interested. They fell in love with him because for the first time they could see the real knowledge of Rasulullah. Because all the other classes in Masjid al-Nabiyyah was nothing in the Masjid of the Prophet. The true knowledge was with Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So Jabir, he tells Amr ibn Shimr that the reason why he was called AlBaqer, because he was the first Imam to truly dissect the knowledge and spread it, show it to the people. Now, Imam AlBaqer was not more knowledgeable than the other Imams. It's just the opportunity. It's just the fact that he displayed the Imam in a way that the other Imams could not because they did not have the knowledge, because they did not have the opportunity, of course. So then, Jabir ibn Yazid, he says that Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari was a companion of Rasulullah, but he lived long after Rasulullah. He lived during the time of Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Imam Zainul Abidin, and he made it until the time of Imam AlBaqer as well. He lived a very long life. Jabir ibn Abdullah tells Jabir ibn Yazid, he tells him this hadith, وَلَقَدْ أَخْبَرَنِي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ. The Prophet, this is probably 50, 60 years before this event, he tells his companion Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, أخبرني رسول الله أنك ستبقى وتلقى ولدي محمد ibn Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. The Prophet tells Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari that you're going to live a long life. You're going to live for 50, 60 years longer until you see my great-grandson, Imam AlBaqer, who is the grandson of the Prophet. Because Imam AlBaqer is the grandson of whom? Of Imam Hussein. And Imam Hussein is the grandson of the Prophet. So he's his great-grandson. The Prophet tells Jabir that you will see him. He tells him, ستلقى محمد ibn Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib المعروف في التوراة بباقر. The Prophet tells Jabir that my great-grandson AlBaqer, Muhammad, he is known in the Torah, the book of the Jews, as AlBaqer. So as the Prophet says, apparently, the name of Imam AlBaqer is mentioned even in the Torah. Now obviously the unmodified Torah that no longer exists, that was with the Prophets and the Imams. So this name AlBaqer, the one who spreads, it goes back to the times of the Jews. Just like we say the name of the Prophet is mentioned in the Bible, the undistorted Bible, the name of Imam AlBaqer was mentioned in the Torah. So the Prophet tells Jabir, فَإِذَا لَقِيتَهُ فَأَقْرِئْهُ مِنِّي السَّلَامِ. If you see my great-grandson AlBaqer, send him my salams. Tell him, I met your great-grandfather, Rasulullah, 60 years ago, and he told me I will meet you. Please send him my salams. And this is when he sent him his salams. So this is where Imam AlBaqer gets his name, the one who dissects the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And that's because we mentioned he was the first person to spread the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Imam AlBaqer began to teach and spread the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt until he began having loyal students that fell in love with him. And his students became eventually, after they graduated from the University of Imam AlBaqer, They became scholars themselves, ulama, maraja'. You see how we have maraja' today? Some of the students of Imam AlBaqer, they became maraja', that people would go and ask questions and ask for fatwas. Amongst them was Aban ibn Taghlib, one of the greatest narrators and scholars of Ahlul Bayt. He was a student of Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam. Zurara ibn A'yan, I'm sure many of you have heard the name Zurara. He was a student of Imam AlBaqer. Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi, one of the students of Imam AlBaqer. These were the greatest scholars of the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt. Imam AlBaqer taught them, and then he ordered them to go and spread the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And as I mentioned, eventually they became maraja'. You know, some people, they ask this phenomenon of having maraja', where does it come from? That I choose the most knowledgeable marja' and I follow him and I do taqleed. Where does the idea of taqleed come from? I don't need taqleed. Did the imams do it? Is this something new? Yes. Taqleed officially began during the time of Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam. He taught those students until they became mujtahids. Zurara was a mujtahid. Aban was a mujtahid. Muhammad ibn Muslim was a mujtahid. Thank you so much, Hajj. Thank you. So he raised them and he taught them until they became mujtahids, learned, educated scholars. And then what did he do? He would tell them to teach and preach and give fatwas. Listen to this hadith from Imam AlBaqer. He told Aban ibn Taghlib, his student, one day, he told him, Ujlus fi masjid al-Madinah. Sit in the masjid of Rasulullah. Because remember, this is where you had all the discussions and the classes in the masjid of the Holy Prophet. He tells him, Ijlus fi masjid al-Madinah wa afti nas. He uses the word fatwa. Give fatwas to the people. They ask you, is this halal? Is this haram? What does this verse mean? What does this hadith mean? Give your fatwa. Based on your ijtihad and understanding of the Quran and the hadith, give your fatwa. And then the Imam said, فَإِنِّي أُحِبُّ أَنْ يُرَى فِي شِيعَتِي مِثْلَكَ أو مثلك. He says, I would love that there are more in my Shia like you. Meaning educated scholars that are able to teach and preach and give fatwas, give rulings and verdicts. So the Imam appointed him as a marja'. What does a marja' do, I ask you now? He gives fatwas. You ask him questions and he gives you the answer. Based on his ijtihad and understanding of the Quran and the Hadith, he gives you his fatwa. This phenomenon began during the time of Imam AlBaqer. He would tell Aban, give fatwas in the masjid of Rasulullah. Because Aban was a scholar, he was able to do that. He was qualified. Now this is one example. Likewise, another example, Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi. One of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq was Ibn Abi Ya'fur. Ibn Abi Ya'fur asked Imam al-Sadiq one day, he tells him, look, I can't come to you every day and ask you questions because it's difficult. Sometimes I'm traveling, sometimes you're busy, sometimes I'm busy, so I can't always come and ask you. There's many questions I have people that ask me and I don't know the answer. What do I do if I can't always access you? Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam tells him, مَا يَمْنَعُكَ مِن مُحَمَّدٍ ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi. He tells him, go and learn and take rulings from Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi. فَإِنَّهُ قَدْ سَمِعَ حَدِيث أَبِي. He is a student of my father, Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam. وَكَانَ عِنْدَهُ كَانَتْ عِنْدَهُ مَنْزِلَ عَظِيمَ عِنْدَ أَبِي. And my father AlBaqer used to respect him, used to greatly respect Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi. He used to respect him because Muhammad ibn Muslim was a scholar. So he tells Ibn Abi Ya'fur, if you have any questions, you don't have to come to me. You can go to Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi. And remember, back then, there's no means of communication. There's no email, there's no text message, there's no phone calls. So if everybody wanted to ask the Imam, that would be too difficult, almost impossible. So the Imam would set Muhammad ibn Muslim, he would set Aban ibn Taghlib, Zurara ibn A'yan, and they were maraja' themselves. They would send them to villages, to far places. The Imam is in Medina. If someone is in Khurasan, he's in Qom, he's in Basra, he's in Kufa, he's in Mecca. How can he ask the Imam questions? The Imam, after educating his students, he would send them all across the Muslim nation and they would be maraja' themselves. So this idea began those days. And Muhammad ibn Muslim was so knowledgeable that even the Sunni Muslims, they began to revere him. They would come and learn from him. And this is the student of Imam AlBaqer. In fact, in one hadith, Ibn Abi Layla, he was one of the judges and scholars, but he was not Shia, he was a Sunni scholar. Now, in one situation where he had this very, very complicated issue, he did not know the answer. What should he do? So he came to Muhammad ibn Muslim and he asked him, do you have any hadiths from Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam about this situation? It's a very lengthy problem that he had between two people that had a dispute. He says, I can't find any hadith, any verse to favor either way. Do you have any hadith from Imam AlBaqer? He says, let me look. He looked and he found a hadith that could be applied to that situation. He went and he gave the fatwa based on Muhammad ibn Muslim's understanding from Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam. So this is how the teachings of Ahlul Bayt began to spread. And obviously, as you know, Imam al-Sadiq came after that and he took that to a further level, further step. Imam al-Sadiq used to have thousands of students. And some of the leaders of the schools of thought of the Sunnis, they were students of Imam al-Sadiq. Like whom? Like Abu Hanifa was a student of Imam al-Sadiq. Also, Malik ibn Anas, student of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam began to spread in a way that people had never seen. So this all began, this transformation, evolution, it began during the life of Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And that's why when you take the book of, for example, Bihar al-Anwar, filled with ahadith of Ahlul Bayt, or the book of Wasa'il al-Shia, filled with the jurisprudential ahadith, the halal and the haram, the fiqh ahkam of Ahlul Bayt, and it's all ahadith of Ahlul Bayt, you see many of the ahadith عن أبي جعفر قال أبو جعفر عن أبي جعفر قال أبو جعفر حدثني أبو جعفر. Abu Ja'far meaning Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam, and likewise Abu Abdullah is Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Most of our ahkam, the way we pray now, how do we know that? Because the teachings of Rasulullah, remember, after Rasulullah died, they burned his teachings. This was the official state position, to burn the teachings of Rasulullah so that they can advance their agendas. Imam Ali alayhi salam, yes, we do have traditions from him, but not complete, not too many. Imam Hassan, barely any traditions. Imam Hussein, barely any traditions. Imam Zainul Abidin, some more traditions, but not too much. Most of the ahkam, how to pray, the ahkam of fasting, the ahkam of hajj, the ahkam of halal and haram, what we can do, what we can't do, the aqaid of our religion, and many other things, tafsir Quran, the hadith, it comes from Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam and Imam al-Sadiq. But unfortunately, many of us, we don't take the time to learn. You could find thousands of ahadith, all knowledge, treasures from Imam AlBaqer. How many of them have we read? How many of them have we studied? 5? I don't even think it's 5. 10? If it's 10, it's good. 20, 50, 100? These are all treasures of Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam. We should take the time, brothers and sisters, read one hadith of Imam AlBaqer a week. Take you 2-3 minutes. And now many of the hadith are translated to English. Just go to alislam.org, remember the dash, islam.org, and you will see many books about the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt. The book of Al-Kafi is now translated to English. You can access it online, you can buy it online. So this is something beautiful, a legacy that Ahlul Bayt left us that we can, inshaAllah, all benefit from. I will stop here regarding the life of Imam AlBaqer alayhi salam, and inshaAllah I will continue speaking about the life of Imam Al-Jawad alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.